Hey everybody, okay, this is lesson 3 in the master class. Alright, in this particular lesson what we're going to be going through is understanding the property package that the broker is going to be sending you. Now you're going to be receiving a lot of different types of property packages. Some of them are going to be absolutely beautiful and some of them are going to look like they were written on the back of a cocktail napkin. Alright, even the beautiful ones can be absolutely useless if it doesn't give you the information that you need in order to evaluate the property correctly. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to take you through some nice property packages, show you the information that you need, and then make sure that you understand that it is exactly what is necessary for the next step. The next segment is going to be understanding multifamily financial statements better than your accountant, and you're going to need to make sure that the information you get to put into that information is going to be accurate. Otherwise, it's all junk in, junk out. And I can tell you, based on my own personal experience, is if you do not get the right information right away, it's not ever going to be coming down the pike. So if you don't get it, move on to the next property because you're just wasting your time. So many times you really have to think about who owns multifamily property. A lot of times it's mom and pop shops. Sometimes properties have been inherited by family members, and it's just not run like a good business. And you're looking to buy a good business, or at least find a bad business that you can steal and then turn it around yourself. And in order to understand a good business, you really have to understand the numbers. And if they can't report to you the numbers, then you know it's not a good business. And so you've really got to be very suspect. You're not going to pay top dollar for a bad business. Just don't do it. You'll never get your money back out of the deal. So you will be seeing different types of property packages in this video. I'll show you exactly what you need to understand. Here's a little tip also, especially for absolutely new investors. You're going to be getting a lot of stuff, a lot of paper, a lot of beautiful documents. When I first got started in this business, every time a property package came through, I'd print it out and I'd create a file and I'd store it nice and neat and I'd speak to the broker about it and I'd have the file right there in front of me. I don't know how many trees I killed with that methodology, but it was the biggest waste of time, effort, and money. Don't do it. Once you see exactly what you need in every property package just to make the initial offer, you'll see it all boils down to maybe 2 or 3 pages. That's all you're going to need. So don't go print off the whole entire thing. If they did give you a great property package to begin with, and you get that deal under contract, and you go through the due diligence phase, and now you're going to start to get out there and raise private money, that really nice property package is going to come in very handy because you're going to use all that information to create your offering memorandum. It's all done for you. It's beautiful. But at this particular stage of the game, you're just going to be focusing on 2 or 3 particular pages. So let's jump over to the computer, and I'm going to let you watch my screen as I take you through a couple of different property packages, things that you should look for and things that you shouldn't, you should avoid. All right, let's go. Okay, this first property here is absolutely gorgeous. It's from the Institutional Property Advisors. It's a Marcus and Millichap company. This is down in the Phoenix area, and as you will see, it's 72 pages long. Do you need all 72 pages? No, you do not. But I'm going to show you the ones that you do need. Just take a look at the first cover. You'd be amazed. Some brokers have absolutely no eye when it comes towards leading with their best punch. In this particular case, this is a beautiful picture. You look at it and you just want to be there. And these brokers did a good job. Some brokers will show you the worst picture and put it on the cover. And you're like, really? That's the best this property has to offer? And this is all you're showing me right now? Oops, let me jump back here, because I want to talk about who the brokers are. All right, so here you see it's listed by these 3 gentlemen, Stuart Weston, Alexander Garcia, and John Montacab. These are the guys that you're going to be in touch with on a regular basis. Whether you make an offer on this property or not, these are the guys you want to be creating a relationship with. So this is, whether you go through this deal or not, whether you make an offer on this property or not, you definitely want to follow up with these gentlemen to let them know who you are, that you've looked at the property, that it's great, that it meets your requirements, or that it doesn't meet your requirements. Now take a look at this table of contents. It just goes to show you all the things that go into a beautiful deal. Now, when you go to create your own offering memorandum to raise private money, your offering memorandum analysis is going to look a lot like this, okay? So just get used to it. When the time comes to build your offering memorandum, this is the type of look you're going to come back with, all right? But right now, at this stage of the game, you don't need all of this, but we're going to go through it anyway. Now, this particular confidentiality agreement, it isn't just a confidentiality agreement. It's also a get-out-of-free-jail card. Basically, what this disclaimer says is that if it's your responsibility to, as you can see right here, I'll find you the exact line, and it's not going to let me highlight it, but it's right here. The information contained herein is not a substitute. Let me see if I can do it. Nope. Yeah. The information contained herein is not a substitute for a thorough due diligence investigation. Institutional Property Advisors has not made any investigation and makes no warranty or representation with respect to the income or expenses for the subject property. In other words, if you blow it, it's your fault. Don't blame us. And if ever there's fraud involved in the analysis, or fraud in the factum, fraud in the contract, as we say in the legal terms, then this is how the broker is able to cover his tail and get out of the lawsuit. And then your lawsuit's going to be back to the actual seller who provided this information to the broker. So there you have it. That's something that every broker's package should have, usually has, and it's something that you just need to understand from a culpability and liability standpoint. So let's take a look at the executive summary. This is just a snapshot, kind of gives you an overview of what this property is all about. It's a 197 unit multifamily in San Bernardino, California, built in '88. Well located. This is where it tells you all the great things about the property. Very rarely does it tell you bad things. But when it does tell you bad things, it couches it in terms that you need to be able to decode. One of them has to do with value play or potential rental increases. That means if you go in there and do a rehab, you can get higher rents. When you see those types of statements in any type of offering, you know that this property's got a little bit of work to it. So don't believe all the numbers that you're going to be seeing. All right, let's see. Investment highlights, they always take beautiful pictures of the properties. These are usually the staged units, and they always look absolutely beautiful. Now take a look at this. Just like I said, ability to add value through continued exterior and interior upgrades. So this property needs to be rehabbed. That's the code that you're going to see in here. Right now they say they've renovated exterior and interior units. The problem with that is you don't know what renovated means. Renovated can mean so many different things to different people. And you need to make sure that you understand what renovations mean. That sometimes will come out in the rent roll when you see the same units being rented for different amounts. That means that one unit has been renovated, the other unit still needs to be renovated. Those are the types of things you want to be looking out for when you're evaluating the property. Something else that I always kind of throws me is this high visible corner location. Now, when I was first getting started in multifamily and somebody mentioned that, hey, this thing is on a very busy road, my first reaction was, well, who wants to live on a busy road? That's terrible. Well, let me tell you something. Once you own property, you love being found on a very busy road because that's your marketing plan right there. So when you see that it's located on a very visible corner, that's a good thing. You want it to be located on a busy corner. All right, next page, more location highlights. It tells you how great San Bernardino is, more pretty pictures of the rooms. There's the map, means absolutely nothing to you if you're not from that area. And if you are from the area, you don't need that map anyway. Here's some of the economic drivers. Now remember, as I mentioned before, this type of information is going to be great for you when you're building your offering memorandum for your investors. This is the type of information that your investors want to get their hands on as well. Beautiful, very nice, very nicely done. These brokers did a very nice job putting this package together. Property's got its own leasing center. It's not taking one of the units.
and using it as a leasing center. It actually has its own leasing center. That's nice stuff. And remember, as I always say, one of my rules is I wouldn't want to own a property that I wouldn't want to own a property that I also wouldn't want to live in. And this one is pretty darn nice. This one I wouldn't mind living in if my wife ever threw me out. Just kidding. All right, let's scroll on down here. Okay, as you can see here, they actually come out and tell you what the value add component is. This is what they've done so far. They've extensively renovated in 2008 and 2009. Now, that was 5 years ago. The exterior was substantially improved, and 100 units were upgraded from standard to premium. Okay, so that's what you're going to be seeing different on the rent roll. 100 units should be charged at a different rental unit. Increase in occupancy levels and upward movement in rental rates, and so they decided to take over this property and start to renovate it. They have 97 units left to go, and to do that, what they expect you to do is in-unit washer, dryer, vinyl wood flooring, two-tone, recessed lighting, all these types of things. Now, take a look at from a code standpoint. One thing that you want to think about is in-unit washer dryer. Whoops, let me fix that. In-unit washer dryer. What that means is that there should be something on the income and expense statement that talks about income from washer dryers. And that means our typical rule of thumb, if they've renovated 100 units out of 197, they've renovated 100, and 100 of them no longer have laundry income available to them, then the numbers, our rules of thumb numbers, will not work out all that well when we're looking at the income from the laundry. So that's something you want to keep in mind when you get to the income and expense statement. We're going to cover that in the next lesson, but I want you to see those types of codes in the offering memorandum from the broker. Here are some of the proposed renovations. As you can see, patio fencing, and upgraded the basketball courts and the patios. Pretty nice job. I mean, this is a beautiful. Look at that. That's a beautiful little spot, little apartment. Very nice place to live. Nice place to own too. Now, let's take a look at the summary of terms. Now, once again, we're going to go into the code that we're talking about. First thing is the interest being offered. Now, for some of you, this may mean absolutely nothing, and I want to stress this to you. The interest that they're offering is what's called a fee simple interest, fee simple absolute. That means that they are selling you the whole entire package, all the mineral rights below it, all the land rights, all the air rights you are going to get. And as long as you pay your taxes and the government doesn't come in and take it through eminent domain, you and your progeny will own this property ad infinitum. Okay? Great. Why is that important? Why do I need to know that when I'm looking at this property? Well, the real reason is if I'm looking in properties in different parts of the country, like Texas and Oklahoma, you may not be buying the fee simple rights to the property. You may be buying the everything but the mineral rights. A lot of times property owners will sell off the mineral rights and get a big fat check from the oil companies, and then when they go to sell the property, they no longer can sell the property as a fee simple interest. So when you see the interest offered and it says fee simple, you know you're getting everything. Otherwise, it'll say, less the mineral rights or something to something to that point. Now, terms of the sale: properties being offered free and clear of any debt. What does that mean? That means you are going to be responsible for putting any debt on this property. You are not going to be assuming the existing debt. All right. If it said that it was an assumption, you would not see that statement that it's being offered free and clear of any debt, because it couldn't be. So that's when they say the terms of the sale is free and clear of any debt. That means you do not have to assume this mortgage. You can go out to the marketplace and get your own debt. Property tours, due diligence, all this information about the property. Now, as you can see here, it's being offered on an unpriced basis. What does that mean? That means that the people don't know what to price it at, and they want the market to come in and make that determination. Now, one thing I glossed over early on in this property package was the fact that it said that there aren't very many comps, sales comps in the area recently. So they don't know how exactly to price this property. They don't know what the cap rate should be on this particular asset. So they're going to let the market determine it by just throwing it out there and coming up with a price. Now, what does that mean to you as a potential new investor, as somebody just, trying to get your feet wet? It means that, you have to be more aggressive on your pricing. You have to have a more aggressive cap rate in order to make this deal make any sense to you. It means because it's such a nice asset, you might most likely are going to be going after some pretty big players who want to get their hands on this type of a property. So they're willing to be a lot more aggressive in their analysis. They're willing to go with a more aggressive or more conservative cap rate, price it higher, and that's what you're going to be up against. So initially, my reaction is, if you're a new investor, these types of deals where the price is being offered TBD or unpriced or to be determined by the market, you might not have a whole lot of success with them, but what the heck? Nothing offered, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You don't ask, don't get. If you never make an offer, you never buy a thing. Go ahead, throw an offer out there and see what happens. Remember, this is a relationship building game. By putting a legitimate offer out on the table, those brokers at the beginning of the package are going to look at you and say, "Oh yeah, okay, these guys make offers, so let's move them up the food chain." So that's a thing you want to really be aware of when you're putting this thing together. So let me move on here. Next page. More pretty pictures. Really, I'm telling you, sitting here in New England in the winter, that looks pretty nice. Now, property description. Remember, this is all information that's going to be great for you when you go to build your offering memorandum. Okay, there's more information. If you look at the tax records, which you will when you go to evaluate the deal, there's the assessor's parcel numbers. You'll be able to look at right up there. Utilities are paid by tenant on a RUBS basis. Okay, trash and sewer is paid by tenant on a RUBS basis. So essentially, you're billing almost all utilities back to the tenant. That's great. The only difference is with the RUBS system, there will be a line item on the income and expense statement that shows that you collected the income for that and then you paid out the water, trash, and sewer bill in the expense line. So that's something you're going to need to take into consideration when you're analyzing the deal. HVAC is done on a central system. It has smoke detectors. The roof is pitched. Beautiful. Okay, I like this property. This property is looking really good to me. Here are some of the community amenities. This is the stuff that you typically use to sell the units to your tenants. Really beautiful stuff. I love this property. It's beautiful. There's the actual lot. They have 2 pools, 1 office, a lot of laundry facilities. Here are the floor plans. They've done a very nice job putting this package together, because they've convinced me that I want to live in San Bernardino. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. Look at. We're already on page 25. It's taken us 25 pages to get to the most important part. When you start looking at a ton of property packages, you won't even look at those pretty pictures. If you've been through as many apartments as I have, you won't even look at those pictures anymore. All apartments start to look the same. What you want to do is get right down here to the financial analysis, because from this information, you will be able to determine very, very quickly whether this is a legitimate deal or not. So let's see what they're giving us. All right, more of the property description, the analysis timing. All right, they're showing you the time spread that they're doing their analysis over a 10-year period. The monthly rent roll report, that shows you when it was produced and what the gross potential rent are, loss to lease. They're really showing you what assumptions they're using in their analysis. And my first question is, the only time you use assumptions is when you're using pro formas. If you're not using pro formas and you're doing it on an actual basis, you don't have to assume anything. That shows you the actual numbers and how they look. As you can see here, they're in their analysis to determine what the cash-on-cash return is. They're going to use a mortgage that's based upon a 30-year mortgage, 4.35% interest, 10-year term, 360-month or 30-year amortization, and maturing in 2024. So as you can see, those terms are essentially a Fannie Mae deal. So they think that this property can easily qualify for Fannie Mae. And I can tell you, folks, just by looking at it, that's probably very accurate. So let's take a look at, they've just told us why they have these assumptions. Now, remember how I said 2 to 3 pages is all you're going to need. When you're using the cash flow analyzer, this is the first page that you're going to use. As you can see here, it gives you the whole entire breakdown of all the different types of units that they have. It tells you the square footage, but more importantly, it shows you what the market rents are. Here is a market rent as of March 2014. 1,100, average. I don't care about the average, but the total market income is $218,000. That number is going to be put into your cash flow analyzer to figure out what your top line, what your gross potential rent is for the property. So this particular page is your first important page when doing your analysis. So always look for the unit type analysis. Now, let me just do a quick little aside here. The rent roll is very important. You can typically get your financial package and your rent roll. But when I'm doing my numbers and trying to calculate what my offer is going to be, I don't really look at the rent roll all that much. I will, when I get down to analyzing the due diligence in this property, I will rip apart that rent roll. But at this particular stage of the game, it's not that important to me. So let's go on. What else do we have here? Okay, this is very interesting. Take a look at this, and it's very important that you pick up on certain terms so that you know what you're looking at, all right? Projected, okay? Projected, that is the key. This means that these are not real numbers. You are not going to base your analysis on this page. You don't care what someone else's projections are for this property. You can come up with your own projections, and you will, and they may be entirely different than what the broker is showing you. In other words, this is pie in the sky salesmanship. Do you remember that disclaimer at the beginning of this package? That enables him to make up anything he wants on this projection page and get away with it. All right? Don't fall for it. When you see terms like projected, assumed, you don't care one iota about this information. What you will kind of glean from it are the categories that this broker is using in order to do his analysis. Let's take a look. So they do have a laundry income. They do calculate a laundry income. They make some money from security deposits. They do collect some of the money from bad debt, applications fees, cancellation fees, $16,000. Ooh, that's pretty big. Pet fees, month-to-month premiums, people that don't want to sign 12-month leases, late fees, vending income, $100, utility reimbursement income. Remember how I said about RUBS? And there's going to be a line item for the income? There it is right there. They make $157,000 from the utility reimbursement from the RUBS. Cable revenue sharing. Okay, they make $1,000 a month from that. Towing fees. Okay. This is a well-managed and actively managed property. Your property management company, whether it's you yourself or whether it's a third-party management company, is going to have a lot of work to do here. And that gets back, if you're thinking about using a third-party management company, you want to make sure that the contract is written in such a way that the revenue that you pay them, the percentage income, is based upon rent that's collected. The market rent that's collected. Look at all this other income down here that they would want to get their hands on, $301,000. If they take 5% of that, that's a good chunk of change that they'll be putting in their pocket every year that could be going to you. So make sure when you draft your third-party management company that their percentage that is based off of the market rent and not off of all this other income. Gross potential of income. Okay, now here are the numbers that go towards reducing your rent, and then you go your typical expenses: taxes, insurance, utilities. Look at utilities, $161,000. Up here they collect $157,000. That's pretty good. There, it's almost like they're collecting all of the utility income. Contract service, R&M, marketing and promotion, on-site payroll. So they really, they're building in there a lot of other things. Some stuff jumps out at me. Marketing and promotion. They're spending $100 per unit per year. for a property that's got a 5% vacancy, that's a pretty big number to use for marketing. I wonder why that's so high. All right, so that gives you an idea. These are the numbers, these are the categories. This is not the information that we want to use in our calculations, all right? So let's move on to the next page. Okay, once again, folks, here's the stabilized pro forma income and expenses. What's the key word in this analysis? Remember, in the last one, it was projected. In this one, it's pro forma. And as I always joke, pro forma is Latin for pretend. This is pretend. And as long as a broker can put a disclaimer at the beginning of his package, he can say anything he wants on this page. Do not believe it for a second. You don't care about this information. Now, check out this. Talk about the footnotes. This guy's got his projections footnoted up the wazoo. 32 footnotes to go explain how he came up with his pie in the sky projections. This is great stuff. You can go through it. We're not going to go through it right here because it's all made up. Now, here we are, page 31 of 72 pages. Now we're starting to get into the growth rate assumptions, the expense assumptions. Here is his 10-year cash flow projections. You don't care about this. That does you absolutely no good at this stage of the game. You have to see the actuals, all right? Now, so there's the market overview. Now we're on page 34. I'm not even going to get in. We are done. We are done with the analysis of this particular property because this has given us all that we need. We have seen essentially that the only information that we are able to glean from this particular property package is that one page where it shows what the market units are for each one of the units and the different types of unit types. That information is going to be put into our cash flow analyzer, but everything else is made up. So what do? Well, in this particular case, more information came with this property. As a matter of fact, the actual numbers never made it into this pretty package. So in other words, when you get a property package sent to you and it looks great, the real information may not even be in there. Let me show you what this particular broker did. Check this out. Now, I know you're probably not going to be able to see this, and I will zoom in on it in just a moment, but this is another handout that this particular broker provided. It is a 8.5 by 11 page where he actually came up with the adjusted numbers versus the actual numbers. We want the actuals. Now, let me just zoom in here a little bit. It's already at 100%, but I'm going to get in a little tighter because I think it's important for you to understand. The first question is, what's the difference between adjusted versus actual, and why can't we just look at the actuals? Now, it's actually good. Here's what he did, and he puts a little caveat up here that says adjustments were made for reclassifying items. Let's come in there. Reclassifying items that were expensed but should not have been, since they were capital in nature and should have been reflected on the balance sheet. Okay, that's the first type of adjustments they're making. And then there are also some one-time non-reoccurring items that were on there. Okay, and then there were some normalized. Let me just scroll over. It's taking me a little while to get it over here because it's so huge. Either that or my computer is just so incredibly slow. One-time non-recurring items, normalizing excessive expenses. Okay, that one I'm not so sure about. Normalizing excessive expenses, significant discretionary cost, and expenses attributable to prior, I guess it's going to say prior years. All right, so let's go through prior. Expenses attributable to prior periods but booked in the current period. Okay, now that's all well and good, but all of those things are going to need to be verified before I will give him that information or allow him that ability to change his numbers. I am going to want to see exactly what he's talking about. So let me go through each one of those things that he talked about because it's all very important. Something that's capital in nature and should have been reflected on the balance sheet. A capital expense versus an operating expense. Remember, when we're looking at an income and expense statement, and we're going to get more into this in next month's lesson, you're looking to calculate out the net operating income. Okay? Net operating income includes certain line items and it excludes other line items. The best example I can show you is painting. Paint. Should paint be put in the operating expense, the income and expense statement, or should it be capitalized? The answer is it depends. And it depends upon what the paint is used for. If you're using paint on the exterior of the building, believe it or not, the accountants consider that a capital expense and it is not included in the net operating income. So if you spent a lot of money on paint, it may never even show up in your income and expense statement because it was all used on the exterior. But if you're using paint on the interior to turn a unit, that's considered an operating expense, and therefore it would show up on your income and expense statement. That's the subtlety that we're talking about when we're talking about capital expenditures. You want to understand what is a capital expense and what is an operating expense so that you know that the numbers are reported accurately. All right? That may sound like a lot. Trust me, folks. Once you get in this business, it's all going to be so incredibly easy for you. All right? So that's capital in nature. One-time non-recurring items. Okay, what are they and why are they one-time and why did we incur them? And if you incurred them, what says I'm not going to incur them as well? You know, a perfect example is a pipe bursts from the street to your building, and it costs you $10,000 in a month to fix it. Is that a one-time non-recurring item? Well, yeah, I'm hopefully not going to have to fix that pipe again, but it's part of owning the property. It's an operating expense. So, you know, you kind of get into an argument with your accountant as to how that type of thing should be reported. Normalizing excessive expenses. Okay, normalizing excessive expenses. Now, why were they excessive? And why will they not be excessive when I own the property? So you've got to really come at these things with a very jaundiced eye. Don't believe a word you're saying. Don't believe anything anyone tells you, including me. And this is what I say to my clients all the time. Oh, Charlie, I really know you. I like you. I trust you. I said, don't. I'm a very trustworthy guy. I don't lie, but don't ever trust me. Get everything in writing. I mean, you think about that saying, fences make good neighbors. Contracts make good neighbors. We all know exactly what we're supposed to be doing here. So when you see things like, we normalized excessive expenses. Oh, really? Can we say that to the IRS? Can we go to my bank and say, actually, I made a lot more money than I expected because I normalized excessive expenses on my income and expense statement. What do you think about that? The bank's going to say, show us the cash, which is exactly what you should be saying. Significant discretionary costs. Wow. Okay. That's what I call my kids' tuition. That's a significant discretionary cost. Same with their orthodontia. Yeah, well, believe me, you still got to pay it. And expenses attributable to prior periods but booked in the current period. Okay, well, why did they book it in the current period, and why did they put it back in last year's? Don't they now have to go back and fix last year's tax return because they booked things incorrectly? I mean, these are the types of things that you're going to see brokers pulling on you, and you've got to say, wait a minute, I'm not buying that. I want to see what were your actual numbers. So here's what they did is they came up with an adjusted column and an actual column, and let's take a look at the difference between these two numbers. Okay, so you see what happens is based upon his adjustments versus what the actual numbers were, the net operating income went from $821,000 for last year to $1.2 million for last year for the adjustment, a $414,000 variance. Wow. This broker just found at a 5 cap, he just found almost $8 million in additional valuation on the property by just moving some numbers around. Isn't that amazing? Don't fall for it. Do your own analysis. That's why you always want to see the trailing 12 financials. Okay? That is the lesson that you're going to learn today, is that you can look at a 70-page beautiful property package, but it is meaningless, absolutely meaningless, unless you look at the trailing 12 financials. When you speak to a broker and he says, hey, I'll send you over the information, the only information you should be looking at are the trailing 12 financials, okay? That's what you ask for. If you don't get it, move right on to the next property. Because if they are not able to provide you with that information, then the property is not a sustainable business. It's not being run like a sustainable business. And if it is, if you don't get that information, but you still want to make an offer, make an absolute lowball offer, because they're pulling a fast one on the numbers if they can't provide you with that information. So look at this. Based upon the actual versus the adjusted, the difference at a 5 cap is $8 million. That's not the offer price. That's over and above the actual price versus what they're projecting it at. And don't forget, folks, at the beginning of the package, they've got their get out of free jail card. So when you overpay for this property by $8 million and you're ticked off, you can't go back after these guys, even though they played fast and loose with their numbers. So don't fall for it, all right? Now, okay, so that shows you exactly how the first property package that we looked at goes. Folks, I just grabbed a property package out of my emails and put it up here for you to look at. I didn't go looking for any particular type of property to evaluate for you, but this is the type of stuff you get on a regular basis. Don't believe anything anyone tells you. You've got to evaluate the numbers on your own. Let me show you another example here of the type of property information that you get. And don't forget what I told you before. The rule here is you want trailing 12 financials. You don't get it, you got crap. Go for the trailing 12. So let's take a look at this next property package. Okay, believe it or not, this is actual information that I received from a broker on their property, on this property package that they were looking to sell. And let me just give you, this will take 2 seconds, but I just want you to see the type of stuff that you get. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. All the different, 7 units, 1, 2, 3, 5 units, so it totals up. But then check this out. This is one code right here, the weekly amount. Okay, that means that we're not really dealing with apartments. We're dealing with a boarding house. Boarding houses pay on a weekly basis. I'm not in the boarding house business. I'm in the apartment business. What's the difference, you might ask? It's the equivalent of hotel ownership and apartment ownership, but hotel ownership for C-class people who don't even own a credit card. Very, very high management information, high management issues. The thing is, when you look at a boarding house, the cash-on-cash return is going to look unbelievable. And the reason is because there's so much work involved in it that it's entirely different than a property management, entirely different than apartment ownership. So when I see weekly amount, I know right away this property is not what I'm looking for. But more importantly, take a look at the expenses, all right? This is it. Look at that. Taxes, insurance, electricity, utilities, and repairs. Guess what? What's missing? Well, virtually everything else. But where's the property management fee? Where's the payroll fee? Nobody works in this property? Nobody manages these properties? They're all self-managed? Bogus. Absolutely bogus. And, here's what I did. Just so that you have an idea, and one of the reasons why I'm using this example is because I want you to understand how conversations kind of go in this business. Is when I saw this, I thought, oh, well, okay, fine. So I shoot the broker one-line email. Do you have a trailing 12 financial on these properties? And the response back was, didn't you see the financials I gave you? So right away I know that this broker doesn't even know what the heck they're talking about. They don't even know what a trailing 12 is. They don't even know that to evaluate a property effectively, you need the trailing 12 financials. And they think that this is all I need in order to get a deal done. Well, I quickly, just responded back, said, I saw what you gave me and I will pass. So we move on to the next one. But like I said at the beginning of this video, you will get some absolutely beautiful property packages like the first one we looked at, and you'll get some that are written on essentially the back of a cocktail napkin, which is what this one boils down to. So as you can see, these two examples, both of them are at the extremes, but neither one of them give us the exact information that we need in order to evaluate a property, and that is a trailing 12 financial. Now, you hear me keep mentioning a trailing 12 financial, and probably I haven't defined it all that well. What we call it is a trailing 12 or a T12. Now, the 12, the number represents the number of months that this report will evaluate. And it has to start at last month and go back 12 months. So it's a trailing 12. It trails backwards. So if, say for instance, this month is January, what would the trailing 12 be for the property package that I'm looking at? It would be December and the 12 months prior. So it would be all of the previous year would be the trailing 12 if I'm in January right now. If I'm in April, it'll end in March and go back to the previous April. I want to see all 12 months on a financial statement. Now, it kind of goes back to what my mother used to always say. You have to see a woman in all 4 seasons before you can marry her. That's what my mother told me. It's actually pretty good advice. Thanks, Mom. But with a property, it's the same thing. Because when you look at it over a 12-month period, you see trends. You start to see, was there any problem in the occupancy throughout the course of the year? What happened to the utility expenses over the course of the year? Were they seasonal? And if you only look at a very short period of time, you may be getting a very short season, and it's not very indicative of what the actual property is going to be like when you run the whole season. So you need to see that full trailing 12, all right? In these 2 examples, one ugly, one beautiful, neither one of them give us the information that we need to make an offer. So don't get, hooked on the fact that, well, Marcus and Milichev went out there with a professional photographer and took these amazing pictures. Yeah, I don't care. I really don't care. I'm not going to live there. The numbers tell the entire story, and if you can't give me the numbers to tell the story, then there's some story you're trying to hide. So the trailing 12 is what you want. Let me give you an example of one of the tricks that the brokers pull on you when you're looking at the financial statements. Remember, I said trailing 12. I never said any other type of trailing, did I? Let me show you what I mean. Okay, take a look at this particular property package. This is just like the other one, just like the first one. This is from a different broker. This is from Brown Realty Advisors. They work predominantly out of the Georgia area. You will, if you're working in that area, you can't help but bump into these guys all the time. They're always out there. Now the thing is that you want to get their property package and take a look at it and really start to evaluate what it means. Now, once again, look at the line they're pulling here, pro forma. Okay, but it's operations analysis and the pro forma. Well, look at the 4 columns they have. Only 1 column is of the pro forma numbers. The other 3 columns are based upon the actual operations. But wait a minute here. Wait a minute. These numbers might be pretty good. Let's take a look at understanding the dates of these particular numbers. Look at this. In this particular example, it's from January to July. So it's a 7-month analysis. So all they showed you was the NOI for 7 months. It's going to be your responsibility to annualize that. And what I mean by annualizing is you take this information, divide it by 7, and multiply it by 12. That gives you 12 months of numbers based upon the year to date of 2013. Now wait a minute here. What did my mother say? She said you've got to see a woman in all 4 seasons before you marry her. Are we seeing these numbers in all 4 seasons? No, we're not. Well, why can't the guy give us a trailing 12 or a T12? Because he doesn't want you to see the 6 months before that. They're ugly. So he only picks and chooses which area he wants to use. Oh, okay. I didn't know we could do that. Take a look at this next column. Now it's called a trailing 3. Now he's taken the 7 months, but then he's honed it down to even a smaller analysis. Hold on. Now he's honed it down to an even smaller period. Now he's looking at a T3, not even a T12, a T3. And he's telling you, look how great the property is performing under the last 3 months. What's my mother's rule? Does this analysis compare with my mother's rule? No, it doesn't. My mother would flunk this analysis right away. And then the last column, he's looking at just 1 month and then annualizing it. So look at this. By doing that type of hocus pocus with his numbers, he has taken in one column the net operating income from $204,708 all the way up to $324,000. Let me just do a quick little analysis here. He has increased the value of this property just by picking and choosing which time periods he uses. He has increased the value of the property by almost $1.6 million. $1.6 million he is asking you to come out of your pocket because this guy got to pick and choose which time periods he could report to you. Is that fair? No. Nobody said anything was going to be fair. You're just going to be smart about it. Shame on this broker for pulling this stunt. You want the trailing 12, not the trailing 3. So be very, very careful when you look at this type of information and you get this reported back to you by the broker, this hocus pocus. It's baloney. Don't fall for it, all right?
Let me tell you about another trick. Remember how we're calling it trailing 12? And in this particular case, we saw a trailing 3? Well, remember, we're looking at the income and the expenses over a trailing 3, or a trailing 1, or a trailing 12. What happens, though, if the broker gets even a little bit more suspicious? And instead of showing you the trailing 12 for everything, he decides he's just going to show you the trailing 12 for the expenses and the trailing 3 for the income. What? How can you do that? Let me tell you something. These brokers do it all the time, and you've got to be very suspect and vigilant in finding out, making sure that that's not what they're pulling on you. Why would a broker do that? Just think about it for a second. If you're looking at a property that's going through a massive lease-up, like it was a gut rehab 12 months ago, and the owner went in there and fixed all the units, and now he's starting to lease it back up, well, the income over that 12-month period is going to be very poor. 12 months ago was terrible. But last month, now it's up to 100% occupancy. It looks great. So I'm going to only show you the income for that period. But what about the expenses? Well, expenses, we're going to show you the expenses for the whole entire year. Well, why? Because 12 months ago, nobody was living there. So my water bill is really low. So I'm going to show you the expenses over that 12-month period, and I'm going to have a really high income and a really low expense number. And that's how I see a lot of new investors getting trapped. Don't fall for that trick. In my estimation, it borders on criminal for what the brokers are doing. Don't fall for it. You want the trailing 12 for the income and the expenses. Period. That's it. Don't show me anything else. All right? I've seen it pulled so many times. Look at it this way. This is the only industry I know of that can do that and get away with it. Try telling that to the IRS. See, I had a good year last year, but I had a lousy year 5 years ago. So I want to take the income from 5 years ago and match it up against my expenses for this past year, and that's what I want to report to the IRS. How fast will I be in jail? Yeah, exactly. So brokers get away with it all the time. Don't let them trick you into thinking that that's the right thing to do. A trailing 12 financial is what you want. Let me show you an example of what an actual trailing 12 looks like and should look like. And there's going to be one other caveat, one other term that I'm going to throw in here on this next analysis. So let me show you exactly what I mean.
Okay, perfect example. This is actually from one of my clients. They do a fantastic job of analyzing properties. Now, when you get the property package that shows you the 12-month recap, the 12-month trailing 12, let me show you how I quickly look at this so that I know that I'm getting the right property information. Here it goes. First thing I look at is cash basis. All right. Well, what's the difference? The alternative is on an accrual basis. Now, in this particular analysis, because we do have an actual trailing 12, the cash basis and the accrual basis will be virtually one and the same. But I want to make sure that I understand how this package is being reported on a cash basis or an accrual basis. When we get into understanding financial statements next month, you'll have a better understanding of exactly why that's important to me. All right? That's number one. Number two is I check the dates. June 1st, 2013 to 12/31/2013. Well, I want to make sure that this report is probably within 3 months max of where I'm doing the analysis. If it's 6 months old, I want an updated trailing 12. So I'll pick up the phone and call the broker and say, hey, I need an updated trailing 12 to do my analysis. Well, I sent you a trailing 12. Yeah, but it's over 6 months old. Well, just use that one. No, I know, and I look down here in the bottom corner, which is the next thing I'm going to talk to you about. I know that this guy's on the rentmanager.com property management system. I know it is just the push of a button for them to generate an updated trailing 12 for me. So I want my offer to be accurate, so get me accurate information, updated information. If the broker tries to pull a fast one, no, just use that one, and it's old, I say, listen, hey, you're either going to give it to me now or you're going to give it to me later. Why can't I get updated information? So I always check the dates to make sure that they're current. Now, the other thing, as I just mentioned, is I look to see what type of a property package it is or reporting system. And in this particular case, it's rentmanager.com. Great property management system, great reports, accurate reports. I know I'm probably going to be getting great information from the broker, from the seller on his property because he's using a good property management system. Another good property management system is Yardi. One of the worst property management systems is QuickBooks. And when I see a property package come over on QuickBooks, I know that I got problems. I know that this thing is being run by mom and pop shop and not by professional managers. And here's how I can tell a QuickBooks package very quickly. First thing is, up in the top left-hand column, it will say cash basis or accrual basis. You see over here, it says it right here under the heading. On any QuickBooks report, it always says it right over here in the top left column. That's number one. Now, the other thing that is a dead giveaway with QuickBooks is, and I'm going to scroll down here to the most important line on any trailing 12, and that is, hold on a second. Let me shoot it back up here. Right here, NOI. Look at NOI. You know that this is a property management package because it calls it NOI. NOI is unique to the property ownership industry, net operating income. That's our term. When you look at a QuickBooks report that's trying to give you the information on a property based upon the QuickBooks, you will not see a line that says net operating income. It'll say net income. Now that may seem like a little difference, nuance to you, but for me it screams that this reporting package is not going to be the best thing that I can possibly get my hands on, and the information is not going to be reported to me accurately. I mean, a property management package, when the information is input correctly, is going to tell me what the loss to lease figure is. But the problem is QuickBooks will never be able to give me that information because it's not set up to do so. So that's one of the differences. When I look at a trailing 12 financial, I always want to know what system is it being reported on and is the information going to be accurate, okay?
Okay, folks, that is this month's lesson. And the reason why I gave you this lesson right now is because let me take you through the steps again. I'm taking you through the process of getting into this business step by step. Remember, the first month I showed you a whole bunch of ways to find deals on the internet. Deals that did not necessarily involve LoopNet. Deals that you can find, but you just have to dig down a little bit deeper. Once again, it all boils down to building up relationships. So even though I showed you all those different ways, it still comes down to you picking up the phone and speaking face to face with someone. Okay, all right? Last month I told you about drafting your elevator speech. What do you say to a broker when they call you? Because the first month you got yourself out there. You're now out in the stream of commerce. Now people are going to start to react to you. What do you say? What do you say when they call you? That was all of lesson 2. Now the whole part of lesson 2 is to build up the rapport with the brokers so that they can start sending you their property packages. Great, you're having property packages sent to you. What do I do now? Well, that's what we learned this month. All right, so now when you start to get these property packages sent to you, now the next thing you go and do is next month we're going to go through those trailing 12 financials, and you are going to understand the accounting of these properties better than your accountant. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I've had conversations with my property accountant, and because I own and operate properties, I understand what these numbers mean. He doesn't. So I'm going to teach you exactly how these numbers work and what it means. So you're going to understand better than your accountant when you put these numbers together. And then once you get those numbers together, then we're going to start making offers. All right? So it may have seemed like it's taken a couple of months. Patience is what you need in this business. You don't want to like, oh, I got to own a property in the next 30 days. Good luck to you. Don't do it. Take your time and learn this business. So over this next month, when we get to the point of understanding financial statements, what I want you to do, just taking you through the whole entire analysis here of understanding or getting the property packages in the door. Now let me kind of walk you through what we've accomplished so far to date. Remember, the first month I took you through the entire property analysis. I took you through all the different ways that you can find properties on the internet outside of LoopNet. I took you to places that you've never even thought of looking before, but that's where you're going to find the deals. Now, the whole point behind that wasn't necessarily to find the properties, it was to find the brokers that are out there peddling the properties, okay? That's what you're looking for, that's what you're looking to do. So now that was the first month. Then the next month we talked about the elevator speech, because remember, what we did in the first month was that we got you into the stream of commerce. People now know that you exist and they know that you're now looking for property deals. Now they're going to be responding back to you. And the second lesson was teaching you, well, what do I do when they call? What do I say? What's my elevator speech? That was all of lesson 2. All right, now, you build up the rapport with the broker. They're feeling comfortable with you. You know exactly what to say. You sound like a silver-tongued fox. And now these brokers are knowing, liking, and trusting you, and they're sending you property packages. So this month we went through exactly what you need to be looking for on a property package. And it's really very simple. You want the trailing 12. All those pictures are nice, but if you don't have the trailing 12, you cannot analyze the deal properly. All right, so that's what we're looking for. Make sure that when these property packages come in, that's what you're getting. If you're not getting them, pick up the phone and call the broker and say, hey, great package, looks fantastic, doesn't really do me a whole heck of a lot of good. Can you get me a trailing 12 financial? Oh, well, why don't you make an offer and we'll get that later. Listen, I'm going to need it eventually, so why don't we get it now? That way we can save a lot of time if in the event the guy can't get me the trailing 12. Because if he can't get me the trailing 12, I'm never going to be able to buy this property. So get me the trailing 12 now, and I'll make an accurate offer. And if you can't do that, move on to the next one. So you want to get the trailing 12 financial on all of your property packages. Now, once you get that trailing 12 in there, you've got to be able to understand those financial statements. And I'm going to teach you next month how to understand those financial statements better than your accountant. And I'm not kidding you, folks. My property accountant and I have gone back and forth a couple times and sparred over particular aspects of a multifamily financial statement. And what I found out is that he's a phenomenal accountant, but from a managerial standpoint, he doesn't know what that information provides you. It gives you such great control over what's going on in the property, but your accountant won't understand it. I'm going to show you exactly what it means so that you understand your financial statement better than your accountant. All right? Once you go through the financial statements and you know exactly how they operate, then you're going to be able to put that information into an offer, and we're going to start making offers. So this may seem like it's taken several months to get here, and it has. But I'm telling you right now, patience in this business is going to make you millions. And rushing to judgment is going to put you in the poorhouse. Take your time, learn this business the right way, make sure you understand it so that nobody will be able to blow smoke up your skirt when it comes time to evaluating a deal. I want you to know exactly how this business works the right way. That's the key, the right way. And as usual, if you have any questions about this video, shoot me an email to info@multifamilyinvestingacademy.com. I am here. If you're a multi-class A Masterclass Elite member, I am here for you. want to make sure that you do everything correctly. So make sure that you take advantage of our services here at the Multifamily Investing Academy and at Dobbins Law. We're here to help you and make sure that you do become a success. And I love this tagline, we're matching your abilities with your ambitions. And when the two of them equal each other, you can't help but be a success. So keep in touch. If you have any questions, come on the group coaching call or shoot us an email. We'll make it one of our FAQ videos. But otherwise, I hope this was helpful. And I will see you next week when we get into the nitty-gritty of accounting. Don't be intimidated. I'll hold your hand through the whole entire thing. And this has been a lot of fun, and I'll talk to you next month. Thanks, everybody.